Hey everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and it's time for the June challenge, and it's make a background. Hey, so I'm using Jaded Blossom stamp set Be Kind, and Jaded Blossom's tree swing die, their bug trail dies, their mushroom dies, their rainbow dies, their rounded rectangle internal scallop dies, and the gnome dies beekeeper add-ons. I'm also using Doodlebug's Be Happy 6x8" paper pad. So first of all, I have a piece of paper. I think this is Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock, cut at 1/8 of an inch smaller than an A2 size card front. And the same with that pattern paper that's right behind it. And that's from that Be Happy pad. And I'm just going to layer those up just so it's a little bit thicker. So the idea is you've got to make a background, and you can do that with dies or stamps. I chose dies. So now I'm going to be adding on a strip of paper from that 6x8" pad again. It says little bees all over it. Adding it with my ATG tape. So you'll see I'm using a Paper Tray Ink white card base that's A2 sized, so 4.25 by 11, scored at 5.5 inches with my Martha Stewart scoreboard and my Teflon bone folder. Next, I'm going to be doing some assembly. I'm putting together this little bee that's from the Beekeeper add-ons. So the pattern paper is cut from that same Doodlebug pad. There we are. And I'm adding on the little wings. That's Paper Tray Ink white cardstock. You saw that I used American Crafts black cardstock for the base. And then I'll add black cardstock that's also American Crafts for the stripes. So I'm just going to add in 2 stripes. There we are with my reverse tweezers. This is my favorite little bee ever. It is so cute. I like that it's a little chubby bee, just too cute. Now next I have my little beehive that's cut from Paper Tray Ink Honey Nut cardstock and then American Crafts black cardstock, and I'm just layering those up. You saw that I was using a little nail sponge to clean up the edges. Okay, I'm going to put together this little honey pot next. Same honey nut cardstock from Paper Tray Ink, and then that pattern paper again from Doodlebug. And I'm going to add in some yellow pattern paper from Doodlebug for inside and then for the drips. I don't show you this, but when I'm off, like at the end, when I'm done making this card, I add a little bit of Spectrum Noir clear sparkled pen and glossy accents to those drips. I don't know why I didn't film it, but that's why you'll see it in the end. Okay, so next I'm adding on this adorable little bee. Isn't that cute? That's from that odds and ends that match the Be Happy paper line. And now I'm going to stick down this layer onto my card base. So like I said, this is 1/8 of an inch smaller than my A2 size card front. Sticking that down, of course, I have trouble lining things up these days, but it's as good as it's going to get. There we are. And now I'm going to add on this, what's it called? The rounded internal scalloped rectangle dies. So I'm layering them up twice. You saw that I had like a blue layer. That's because I used Candy Stripe and Sprinkles, the 12-inch swimming pool paper for the sky. So I had to cut it out twice, right? Once out of black and then once out of the blue because I wanted the sky to fit in. Now I'm adding in my other pieces that were cut, like I said, from American Crafts cardstock. That's the tree branch. Adding in the little bug trail on the sky. You saw that I cut the little grass out of pattern paper again from that same Doodlebug pad. My clouds are cut from Paper Tray Ink white cardstock, and you see that I'm layering them all onto that, the frame die, just so they have that same scallop, so they all fit in along the frame. So now I'm going to assemble this card. So you see, that's why I cut it out of the blue, and I had an extra frame, so I just layered it up, right? So there it is. So I'm adding on my little frame. So you're only going to see just a titch of that plaid around the edge, but I kind of liked how it looked. And I do weight it down. Next, I'm going to add in my blue sky. And then, I'll have my green grass that was cut from Jada Blossom's mushroom dies, right? So I cut the frame out of it first, and then I took the grass and then I cut the little hill, is what I did. So I'm lining that up in place there. Next, I'm going to add in my grass with some Bearly Art glue, and you'll see that fits perfectly along the frame. That's what I was going for, right? And then I'm going to add in my clouds. Like I said, Paper Tray Ink white cardstock. And I have them in a visual triangle. So it'll kind of look like, it draws the eye around is what it does. So I'm adding in 3 clouds. I ended up cutting this a little bit shorter because I realized it wasn't going to work. No, I didn't like the look of it. So I do cut it a bit shorter in a second here. I decided to see I ran it through again and made it a little bit smaller so it'll kind of hug the side. I didn't want to cover up that bug trail. Now I'm going to do some stamping. I'm going to stamp the sentiment on the front of the card, and that is from that adorable set, Be Kind. Ooh, I keep hitting the camera, I'm sorry, with my Misty. Okay, so now I'm going to stamp the sentiment. It's going to say, Be Happy. I'm going to stamp that in the lower right-hand corner. They are getting in my Misty corners, trying to get it straight. And you'll see I'm going to hit the camera again because, I'm probably making you sick. It's like the Blair Witch movie, right? All the jiggling. Ugh. I don't even get sick, and that kind of bothered my stomach with all the jiggling, So I'm sorry about that. Next, I'm going to stamp my sentiment on the inside. This is going to say Happy B-Day. Oops, and I forgot to take that one off, and then my stamp got moved. Just having one of those days, people. Now I'm going to stamp my sentiment Be Happy, Happy B-Day. There, that's that VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. Now I'm going to stick down my little branch. This is American Crafts brown cardstock that I did the same thing with, right? Cut it first and then cut it out, lining it up with the frame just so I got that little scallop look. Now I'm going to add in my little beehive hanging from the tree branch. Isn't that fun? I just think it's super cute. Now I'm going to pop up this adorable little honeybee. And I'm just going to cut some more dimensional there so it fits in behind. There we go. And it's just so cute, right? I just think it's adorable. So you're going to want to come and play along with this challenge over at the Jada Blossom blog. There's a spot where you can link up your post. We would love to see what you came up with for this. And remember, you can win a prize when you do that. There we go. So now I am going to add in my little bee. Isn't that cute? I love the little heart-shaped bee trail. Okay, I'm going to add on my little honey pot in the lower left. And I did go ahead and I cut out some leaves from the tree swing die along with some flowers. Those were cut from green American Crafts cardstock and lemon tart cardstock from Paper Tray Ink. So I'm going to arrange some of these leaves on this little branch. And then I'll add some flowers as well. Just think it adds, it just makes it look super cute. That's from that tree swing die. Remember, there's lots of ways you can use that tree swing die. It doesn't have to be a swing, right? Isn't that fun? So I'm just going to be adding on a few more of these little leaves, because why not, right? Now my little flowers are going to be popped up with little dimensionals. And like I said, these are lemon tart cardstock from Paper Tray Ink. Just going to add a few of them there. And then I will be adding centers from, I'm using Shape Sprinkles from Honeybees and also Nature's Honey Shape Sprinkles, both from Doodlebug. So I'm adding in, like I said, a few more of these little leaves, because why not, right? And I just think it looks too cute. Adding a couple more leaves there. And I couldn't help it. I had to add one more flower because, you know what the problem with me is. It's like, more is more all the time, right? It's a bad thing sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, oh, stop, Leanne. Why didn't you stop? But I can't help it. Sometimes I just need to add more. So there is my other little flower. Add one more little leaf in there. And I just think this is it's fun to create a background using completely dyes. Okay, so now I'm using Shape Sprinkles. These are called, I think they're called honeybees. But I'm using these little circles as my flower centers. Now, there are die cuts you could use for this, but I thought I would use the little circles. Adds a little bit of shine, right? There, and now I did cut a couple more leaves out so I can add in a couple more little leaves. Because why not, right? There. And I'll add one more, I think. If I can figure out where it's going to go, I'll add one more. There we go. I'm going to add one more of those. Oops. And then we will have a super cute little background. Okay, now I'm pulling out this other one. This is called Nature's Honey. And I'm just going to add a couple little hearts here. Isn't that fun? And I'm going to add a little bit of grass beside this honey pot for some shine. And then, whoops, there we are. And then I'm going to add 3 more little hearts. Just going to kind of have them behind the bee. Just for fun. Like they always say, visual triangles and all that jazz, right? Trying to make sure it's straight. And there we go. So thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jada Blossom blog, Be Inspired by the Team, the Jada Blossom store, to get your hands on these amazing products. And thanks as always for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. Make sure to come back and watch another one soon. Bye, everybody.